So in short, I wanted to present the program. So the first part is devoted to presentations and a discussion with the audience. The first presentation will be... in short, I wanted to... Yeah, please, go ahead. Nina? Nisha? Yeah? Nisha?
No, I don't have any question.
Okay, I just gave the title of your presentation. If you agree, continually evolving locally adapted climate-smart agriculture through involvement of public leadership. So it will be presented by Dr. Kirit Shelat, Nina Shah, and Dr. Aruna Klam from NCCSD. And then we will have three presentations that have been prepared collectively by IRD, INRAE, and CIRAD, and which are based on three policy briefs. I don't give here the detail of the names of the presentation here. I will come back to the spirit of them afterwards. They were prepared ahead of COP26 in Glasgow and ahead of negotiations on biodiversity in Geneva in March, in order to tackle together in an integrated way the challenges of climate change, biodiversity, and food security. And then we'll have a discussion of the audience. And if you have questions, very precise questions, after one presentation, we can take it. And hopefully, but I'm not sure, we will have some delegates coming with us, but I'm not sure that they will be available because currently there are negotiations on agriculture ongoing, so we will see. And then another discussion, and we'll have the pleasure to have the conclusion by my colleague, Marie Hrabanski here from CIRAD. So, Dr. Kirit Shelat, Nina Shah, and Dr. Aruna Klam, the floor is yours. Can you see your slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you see my face?
I don't see you, I hear you. Oh,
now?
Me. I see you now. Okay. Good to see you. Nice to be with us. Yeah.
Good evening. Salute to all.
It's okay. You can go on. That's nice.
Is it okay? Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah? Okay. The audience is also another agency. Everybody can hear you.
Yes. So first of all, our thanks to UNFCCC for organizing and allowing promoting interaction on climate change and agriculture. My thanks are also to our lead partner, the French partner, who have set up this and taken a lot of efforts to make it a success. I will not take more than 1 minute, and before passing on to Nisha to make a detailed presentation. NCCSD is a civil society organization. We are involved in promoting sustainable livelihood. Our focus is on farmers. And in arena of climate change, our mission is that their income should increase, double. It should not reduce, and they should have better facilities. And we are building climate smart farmers in India through very many and variety of measures, which includes climate resilient agriculture, water harvesting and its smart use, energy and its smart use. Now, I pass on to Nisa, our Chief Executive, to make a detailed presentation on a case study of Gujarat, India, where we have done this. And later on, we'll take questions. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kirit Shelat. Nisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, organizers and Dr. Vincent and Claire for giving us the opportunity for participating and for making presentation and sharing our Indian initiatives. So first, I would like to share our presentations. So
the presentation is on the screen here. You send it to me, so we have. Can you see it?
Okay, it's already on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good, yeah. So next slide.
It's okay. You have to. No, excuse me.
Otherwise,
It's on my
I
computer. We have to put it on the screen now. Yeah.
so can I try to share from my side?
No, just a minute. The technicians here are doing their best to have your presentation in the screen.
Sure.
Okay, now it's on the screen. Everybody can see it here in Bonn. So I hope that it is the same for you remotely. So could you go ahead, Nisha? Is that okay?
I think now you're able to see.
Everybody can see the presentation here.
I think I already I shared the presentation. So it's visible to all?
Yeah, I think so.
Sir, it's visible? Can I start?
I'm just a minute. I think we have to share it also remotely.
Yeah, I think on screen, this presentation you can able to see. You cannot able to see my face, but you can able to see this presentation.
Okay.
Sir, it's visible?
Yeah. You are on the slide, Building Climate Smart Farmers, an Indian perspective with a big map. Is that okay? Could you start?
Yeah, sure. So,
I
first
will
of all, thank
I
you
will
so
pass
much.
the slides. Huh? Please ask me to pass the slides.
I think I have this slides. Okay, no problem. First slide is a National Council for Climate Change. So it's like already Dr. Shelat shared. NCCSD, it's a civil society organizations. We are the council, and our main objective is the capacity building and the policy advocacy. Second slides, just I show here that this is the Indian map, and we are working at all the parts of the India. Especially, we have technological interventions in the two major states of India. It's Gujarat and Maharashtra. So our main objective is the building climate smart farmers. How the farmers become a climate smart. Dr. Shelat already gave the background of the NCCSD, but it's NCCSD, it's a council, and it's a consortium of the 12 NGOs, and this 12 NGOs is based in the India. As a council, we are working in more than 2,000 villages, and we are working with the more than 300,000 farmers. Especially, as I mentioned, we are remotely and intensively working as a technically in the Gujarat and Maharashtra. We have a 600 field level workers who help us to identify the needs and solutions we provide through field worker to the farmers. We are not only concentrating only the farmers, but as a council, our main objective is the capacity building. So we provide the training and capacity building initiatives. We always prioritize the farmers, stakeholders, students, and scientists. So we are working at the all level, like from grassroots level, state level, national level, and international level. Why I say international level? Because the last year we did a training with the Apaya and Manka University of the Ghana, and every year since last 10 years, NCCSD participated in the Conference of Parties COPE meeting, and we have a good relationship with the international organizations like GACSA and ICARDE. And in that meeting, when we had a discussion with this Ghana scientist, they demanded the climate smart training, climate smart agriculture training for the scientists. And as an Indian perspective, as an Indian, whatever initiatives, expertise we have, we provide them a training. So NCCSD is working at the all level, grassroots level, state level, national level, and international level. Sometimes we feel proud because in the council we have a council members, and the council members are not only for the Indian members, but we have a members from the USA, from the Singapore. We have members. Our council member is from the FAMU, Florida and Agriculture Mechanical University, Dr. Ambuya, the council member, Dr. Govind Hariharan. He is from the USA, from the Conserva University. We have a council member, Dr. Professor Mukul. He is from the Singapore. So you know why I am saying we feel proud, like we have experts in the council. We have a scientist, we have a grassroots level workers also who are the member of the council, and that's why we have a well equipped technological information farmers need, what we are doing and what we implement at the grassroots level, that we all have access and we can you know, uh, we can provide the same information to the farmers and the stakeholders. Farmer to farmer, the Indian perspective on the climate smart agriculture. Like India's agriculture is a sustainable growth since last 6 decades, average from 2% to 4%. Our this is it has 90% of the small farmers. We have a small and marginal farmers in the India, and where the poverty below line is like over a period of time, this is brought down up to 30%. Initiatives are under, this even as a country, we initiate, and our main objective and main the thrust is how we reduce the poverty and how we reach to farmers on the doorstep. As a country, we have a lots of initiative at the grassroots level, at the international level and national level. Particularly, we have a farmer-to-farmer approach in the climate, in the arena of the climate change. We, as a state, and it's replicated now in the other state also. We all heard Dr. Shelat. He was the principal secretary, Agriculture and Cooperation Department of the government of Gujarat, and he initiated the soil health card program in the state of the Gujarat. So it's a big achievement. I am talking about it like in the 2004-5, the state of the Gujarat, they initiated the soil health card, and it's a successful initiative. And now the different other state also in like adapted this whole approach in the India, like how water conservations, cleaning of the canals, river linking, micro irrigations. Of course, our farmers now, they realize about the importance of the energy. So we have a massive program of the renewable energy in the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy have a clean cook stove, biogas, and solar energy. It's have a lots of scheme, and it's affordable and accessible for the small and marginal farmers and the poor people also. Uh, like for the climate resilient agriculture in the country, we have a NICRA, National Initiative for the Climate Resilient Agriculture. It's a wing of the ICR, Indian Council for Agriculture Research, and NCCSD had a project with the NICRA from 2012 to 2016, and we did NCCSD did actual research in the three major districts of the Gujarat and the Maharashtra, and then whatever the outcome we get, we present it to our country and says, okay, see, this is the gap where we have to train, we have to aware our farmers to become a climate smart farmers. Uh, as a country, we have a state universities, and in the state universities, the farmers. Earlier, sometimes we feel like how the farmers they use the technology, but sometimes challenge, sometimes some like a crisis, it's come. But the Indian people always think and see how we converted the challenge into the opportunities. And since last 2 years, we always learn how, of course, challenge is coming, but how we can convert into the opportunities and how we teach, how we educated our farmers, our rural people, our urban peoples who are the poor, who are the vulnerable, how we can teach them. So, as a part of that, since last 4 to 5 years, the farmer they access the weather advisory and the agro advisory. Earlier, only the technical person, university people, students, they know about the weather related informations. Of course, because it's a part of their education, it's a part of their research. But now, all the farmers, rural people, urban people have a mobile. Earlier, we are not using this type of very enthusiastic way, a mobile technology, but now we have a technology. And of course, the people who are poor, but of course, in the India, they have a mobile and they have a smartphone. They are using the WhatsApp. They are looking the YouTube videos also. So this is like upgradations of the changing of their lifestyle, and now they are using the weather advisory and agro advisory. The comprehensive the crop insurance programs of the farmers we have, so they can able to access the whatever losses they have due to the disaster, due to the calamities. It's like enough for the next season if they get money from the crop insurance. We have a massive program of the Manrega. It's a Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Act, and that it's it's an act, but it's a whole initiative to provide the employment opportunity of the 150 days to the landless laborers and the poor farmers. So, as a country, and we represented the India as a country, we have lots of initiatives for the strengthening the agriculture, for the sustainable development, and for the food security, and for the climate smart agriculture. Just now, in the very few slides, I would like to present the one case of the Gujarat state. This is the just India map, and this is the whole initiative which I now presented is the lab to land, because the scientists, the professionals, the scholars, they have all the research on the paper, they have a technology on the paper. The main objective, how that technology implement at the ground, at the ground level, at the grassroots level. And first of all, how they adapt. Because when we reach in the village and when we talk with the farmers, oh, now this is the technology and you have to adopt this. They don't convince. When you went first time, they don't convince. You have to visit once, twice, thrice, 5 times, 6 times. And first you have to educate them. So as NCCSD, we started this whole initiative with the 300 farmers. And this initiative is very much important that I shared later in the third slide. So why it is very much important? Because we provide the improved seeds, like stress resistant seeds of the as a demonstrations of the castor, cotton, and onion crops, because it's a demand of the farmers. We need these three crops improved seeds, because in the castor, lots of farmers they do not grow castor in that region. The cotton, they have a issue of the pest, and the onion, they don't know in that region what is the improved method of growing cotton crops for the better yield and more productions. So we started this initiative with the 300 farmers of the Gujarat. As I earlier mentioned, when you share with the farmers, oh, now you have to use these microbes. They are not ready. They say, no, why I am using these microbes? So first we have a start with the training and start with the visit. Seeing is the believing. So that's why first the farmer visited in the university farm and university demonstrations, and director research of the university, they just explain and they show the demonstrations of the microbes. Then the farmers, they are feel happy and they say, oh, this is very much important. If we are sitting in the village and doing our traditional practices, it's not enough. So that's why they started using these microbes like trichoderma and pseudomonas for this uh, three crops, cotton, castor, and onion, for these demonstrations. We give educations and we teach them, of course, you are using the chemical fertilizers, but this is the whole initiatives and this is the whole the pilot. So you learn how to use the vermi wash and started vermi wash for these initiatives. Uh, Not only that initiatives, but water is a very precious, and that's why we introducing the lesser irrigations for particular these 300 farmers. In the India and particularly in the Gujarat, we have canal irrigations, we have like borewell. Of course, we have a sprinkler irrigation technology also. But this is lesser irrigations, its water efficiency is increasing, and the farmers, they adopted this whole irrigation system. Initial, they are not satisfied. Okay, why we are using this? Because it's a very less water, and if our crop is filled, then what can we do? But as I mentioned earlier, continuously we keep in touch with them in the very critical situations and adapted. We provide them the training also. So we provide them three different training: pre-seasonal, seasonal, and after the season. This is not possible with the one organization. So if we come together, if we work together, if we sit together, then the initiatives and the efforts are successful. So this is the whole objectives. We are India. If India is the developing, developed countries, underdeveloped countries, so whatever issues we have, if we come together, if we share our initiatives and if work together, then of course in the country none of the man, woman, people are like hungry. So as no one hunger, and of course they, well, it's like difficult, but after well, 20, 20, 30 years, farmers, they become a climate smart farmers. So this is a participative approach. Why we are saying, I am saying this is a participative efforts, because NCCSD is an organization. It's based in the Gujarat, but the little small the organizations who are working actually at the field level, they also participating their best community leaders, the government functionaries like the village heads, we call as a sarpanch, government functionaries, the extension officers of the government of Gujarat, village level leaders. And we, in the state, we have one team we call as the Atma. It's the Agriculture Technology Management Agency. And our state have one organization is based at the district level. We call as the Krishi Vigyan Kendra. Krishi Vigyan Kendra, like in the FAO, we have a concept of the FTC, Farmer Training Center. Same like that in the India, in particular Gujarat state, we have a same organizations and we called it, it's a KVK. So we come together all and start working together. NABARD, it's a National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. They are happy and we are thankful to the NABARD state officers, deputy directors, and the scientists. who provide us the financial support. So this is the whole initiative. This is the like participative efforts. Why I am saying the participative? Because as I mentioned earlier, if we talk about the climate smart agriculture, it's none of the responsibility and efforts of the only one organization or one country. We all have to participate, come together and work together, then it's a possible. This is the best example. That's why I am sharing. Financial point of view also, this is a whole participative approach. So when we talk about the adaptation and mitigation, whose responsibility? Sometimes we have a question like that. Here I am just sharing about the case of the 300 farmers. But when we think about the whole country issues, then who are the responsible? People? No. Farmers? No. Government functionaries? No. Civil society organizations? No. So who take the responsibility of all over this is the global warming, is the global phenomena. And if we all come together, if we all work together, and if we all things are the participative, then it's maybe successful. So this whole initiatives, like it's a participative, and contributions come from the stakeholder also, and financial contributions come from the NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. So farmer also participations in kind of like in a, not in the kind of cash, but like they contribute their efforts, like their manpower. They contribute their fertilizers, because they have animals, so whatever organic fertilizers they have, they contribute that. So like the contributions comes from the stakeholders and the NABARD, and the total cost of the project, like it's a, if you are able to see that it's a 60 to 40%, so 60-40 ratio of this whole initiatives of contributions.
Nisha?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you hear me? Could you come to a conclusion?
Yeah, sure. So this is the, yeah, sure. So this is the whole initiative I would like to just share. This is a very challenging project for us, because it's whole, we did implementations during the COVID pandemic. And as I mentioned earlier, we always think how the challenge be converted in the opportunities. Also, we have one weather adverse weather event of the Taute in the Gujarat state, and lots of workers are the migrants. So shortage of the migrant workers also, because they are, because of the COVID, because of the lockdown, returning to home. So this, all the barriers comes, obstacles comes. Still, we successfully implement this project. How successfully we implement the technology? We implement the vermivore second category of the technology. We 20% reduce the water usages. We save the money, like rupees 75 lakhs. The people they save, and how we can save this data? Because the agriculture university scientists, they assess and they monitored this project. That's why I just put these photos. Okay, oh, I am saying the 75%, 20 million, 20 lakhs, 75 lakhs. It's based on the agriculture university scientists monitoring and efforts. The key action points I would like to share, of course, each and every country have an expertise. Each and every country's farmers have an expertise. But how we can access that? So we have to just redefine this whole initiatives of the climate smart agriculture, especially request to transfer of technology. Those who have, like the developed countries, have a technology, and how we can translate those who need it or those who do not have. Request to Green Fund and Citizen to prioritize the agriculture and, of course, meet the challenges of the food productivity, food security, and food for the hungry of the millions. The new growth demand of the immense and the nutritious foods, orphan crops is required. So request organizations who are working at the globally to prioritize the agriculture, and as I mentioned earlier, the technology, the finance who have, how we can translate who need it and who don't have. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity for starting our initiatives. Thank you so much, Claire, and thank you so much, Vincent, who like our organizers who give us the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nisha. So it was very great to have you with us. Obviously, the circumstances did not allow you to be with us on site, but your presentations was very, very enlightening and very pertinent, I think, in the framework of what we are going to present now. Stay with us. Please, we will have questions at the end of the session.
Sure,
So,
sure.
could you just put... Okay, next. Okay, thank you very much. So we come now to the second part of our presentations, and I wanted just to share with you the approach we had. So CIRAD, INRAE, IRD, and also IGRI, which is the Institute for Sustainable Development and International Relations, a think tank based in Paris, in order to convey messages in the context of COP26. Now we are in the way from COP26 to COP27, and also in the context of the COP13 of biodiversity. So as you already know, we are currently for climate change on the race to zero. The countries are asked to increase their ambition in their national determined contributions. This is the context of the climate change negotiations. A big question in this context is the environmental integrity of the national commitments. And this tension between environmental integrity and carbon neutrality is especially important in the land sector. We wanted to work on it. And the second context is, as you know also, the creation of a new biodiversity framework for the present decade, 2020-2030, for biodiversity. So we can say that currently the negotiators on biodiversity are trying to establish a new regime, as has been established in Paris in 2015 for climate change. So it's a very, very big step they have to do. So next year will be 2023, which will be 5 years after, so 6 years exactly, but the midterm of the realization, if we can say so, of the Sustainable Development Goals that were decided in New York in September 2015. We had also last year the United Nations Food Summit, and it was already a situation of an urgent food crisis, and unfortunately it is aggravated by the COVID-19 and now the war in Ukraine. So we can say that the challenges for sustainable management of land are higher than ever. And in this context, we wanted to address the three challenges of climate change, food security and biodiversity, together with other sustainable development goals like poverty in the most integrated way. So that's the context. So we don't want to present all the details of the policy briefs. You can find them very easily online. They are also here on the table, a few copies of each of them. The first one was produced ahead of COP26. It is related to this tension between environmental integrity and carbon neutrality. And it is perhaps not to recall to all of you the importance of the land sector as an emitting sector, as transportation, industry, for instance. And the figures here, and you know them, so you can also have the presentation. I don't want to go too much on the figure today, but you know also that this sector is also a sector that is sequestering CO2. And as I was a climate change negotiator 20 years ago, we were much more focused on the sequestration in forests, which is a clean development mechanism that still exists under the Paris Agreement. And perhaps you remember that in Paris in 2015, an important stress was also put on the capacity of the agricultural lands to sequester CO2. And it is much more the focus of this presentation. So there is a big stock of soil organic carbon, which if we compare it to the soil organic carbon in the atmosphere and also in the vegetation. So the rationale, in particular, of the International Initiative for per meal food security and climate change that was launched in Paris in 2015 was to say, if we are able to increase just a small amount, it was 4 per meal, so and it's just a figure, it's just an aspirational goal, obviously, it will contribute substantially to tackle climate change. So, in fact, the technical potential for soil organic increase is very well known, but it is difficult to realize for many reasons. And if we consider more broadly the carbon dioxide removal deployment, all techniques in the land sector, also they are of crucial importance. They will remain limited. And the very important message of this policy brief is that for this very reason, it is urgent and necessary to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in all sectors. And the sequestration of carbon in soils has a lot of benefits. And, but it will be, it could contribute to tackle climate change with a much modest contribution than the reductions of emissions. But it has a lot of co-benefits. Here on this slide, you can see the results of the UNEP emission gap report in 2017, which make 3 categories for carbon dioxide removal deployment options. Some are natural, like carbon sequestration in soils, but also afforestation. One is a combination, bioenergy, carbon capture and storage, BECCS, and other one are technological. And what you can say is that the right-hand side of this on the screen, so the technological options, they are non-mature and rely on technologies of very early stage of development. That is what is the technical purpose, but also the question of governance, international governance of such technologies. If someday they will be accessible at low cost and also technically mature, is also a big issue. So, and now if we consider the other options, afforestation, bioenergy, and BECCS, it appears that they are not appropriate to all local challenges because they are large-scale deployment. If it would have a large mitigation potential, which is true, however, it would have negative impacts on food security, biodiversity, and land degradation, as has been stressed in the chapter 6 of the special IPCC special report on lands. So, if now we come back to the soil organic carbon stocks maintainment and increase, which is another option. First, it has a lot of co-benefits, so mitigation, adaptation, on land degradation, desertification, food security, biodiversity, and water on the qualitative and quantitative on both aspects. And what we can say is that it's very interesting to make efforts to maintain the soil organic carbon stock first, and also to try to increase this stock. But it necessitates also to have proper enabling environments, including for tenure rights and proper governance in very different contexts for millions of actors on the ground. So it necessitates a big support to be achieved. And obviously also financial incentives, tailored knowledge at low costs, accurate, and what is also very important, when you finance programs and projects, is to have a capacity to monitor it at low cost and in a satisfactory manner. So we have a lot of also barriers to have an effective deployment of this technical potential. And as a result, as I mentioned earlier, mitigation measures have to be urgently and drastically improved in all sectors to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as close as possible to zero. And therefore, I hope that I have convinced you that special attention should be given to sustainable land management meant to maintain or increase soil organic carbon in soils, which is the only mitigation option, in fact, with no competition for land. So that's an important message of this policy briefs. We have two other messages, but I don't want to go too much in the detail. It's written in our text. Just to recall you that soil organic carbon stocks are finite, because when you put carbon in the soil, there is some saturation at each place, depending on the pedoclimatic conditions. And of course, it is fragile and reversible. And you know that during centuries, decades, millennia, organic carbon has been sequestered in the soil. And when you destroy this equilibrium, it takes not a lot of time to destroy it, but it takes a lot of time and efforts to rebuild a new equilibrium, and it will be never at the same level. Okay, so that's another message. And the last message is very important also. It means that inclusive and structured consultation process for policy decision can guarantee the environmental integrity of carbon neutrality commitments. So this integrity and credibility of commitments to carbon neutrality have to be carefully evaluated, especially in the land sector. We need more explicit and robust foundations for the nationally determined contributions and long-term low emissions development pathways. And scientific research expertise and foresight capacity can help in that regard. And what is very important to have in mind is that it is a necessity, especially in this sector where we have a lot of actors, is both to including them together with technicians, scientists, in the elaborations of policies and measures. And second, it is very important to have them at the beginning in order to be sure that the measures and policies will be implemented. That's the main message I wanted to convey for the conclusion for this first policy brief. So I wanted also to mention that this policy brief has been written as a lead author together with Jean-Luc Chotte of IRD, which unfortunately had to present it today, but he is sick, he has COVID-19, so he's participating remotely. So he asked me to present it. And that's the reason why it's my responsibility today to present you another one. But so I go now to the second one. But it was not my intention at all to take too much time in front of you. It's just because of the fact that my colleague could not be, unfortunately, today with us in Bonn because he's sick and he had the COVID-19, and I hope that he will reestablish and recover as soon as possible. So the second one, policy brief, was also co-written as a lead author with a senior scientist from IRD, which is Catherine Aubertin, which has a very well knowledge of the detail of the biodiversity negotiations. I'm a former climate change negotiator. I'm a physicist. I'm more familiar with the climate change arena. And obviously there are many other authors. And at the end of the day, the first one and the second one, policy brief, were submitted also as submissions to the global stocktake here at the UNFCCC Secretariat. And they were signed formally by our 3 institutions. So it's not only the process of scientists, it's also the commitment of research institutions. So the main messages are here, but I will come to them one by one. So the first one is we must push thinking beyond the false binary of preservation versus production. In fact, historically, to answer the food security challenge and obviously, in the context of the Green Revolution, we had in front in many countries a land-sparing approach, which means saving land by separating production and preserved areas, intensify agriculture to make it more productive without consuming more land, and it means specialized monocultures, intensive use of synthetic inputs, irrigation and biotechnology. And another option, which was present also since a lot of time, but it takes more and more attention, is land sharing, which means spreading out and combining agricultural production and biodiversity conservation in the same area. It builds on the ecology of reconciliation between agriculture and biodiversity, on interactions between humans and other living beings. It means also it is also more intensive in labor, in diversified agricultural zones. It promotes the improvement of diets, in particular when the consumption of meat is concerned, and it also calls for the reduction of food losses and wastes. And what is interesting to notice is that in the context of the post-2020 global biodiversity framework, which is currently discussed, the 30/30 target, which aims to protect 30% of land and marine areas by 2030, raise important questions, which are the following. Which commitments on means and indicators to reach this objective? What remains to be done with the remaining 70% of land? What about state sovereignty, people's land rights, and environmental justice, in fact? What geographic areas and which ones of governance for the additional protected areas, indeed? And we are in a situation where the 30/30 target revives a lively international debate around land sparing and land sharing options of sustainable land use. And we, independently of the food model we will choose in any whatever the place we occupy on the world, is that we must contribute to increased biodiversity together with ensuring food security, while addressing climate change and other sustainability goals. So we are in a new period, and we have to find new solutions on our questions. It was a very different situation, obviously, after the Second World War and when the Green Revolution was promoted. Another key message of this policy brief is very obvious. It is related to the fact that different regions of the world do not face the same sustainable land challenges. And that's the reason why in this policy brief we had the focus on Africa, another one on India, and the third one on Europe. I don't want to come too much into the details here, but just to stay a few minutes on Africa. The expectation is that the projection is that the population of Africa is expected to be doubled by 2050, to reach around 2.5 billion people. That is not only taking place in cities, but also in rural areas, and in particular in Middle Africa. Agriculture is the first sector of workforce occupation, and rural population represents the majority. So the big question for Africa, from our perspective, but we would like to put it in discussion with our African colleagues, and we invited an African delegate for that purpose, but we are not sure that he will be able to join, are the following: how to combine rural densification with fragile ecosystems subject to the impacts of climate change. And we have to find sustainable models for food and agriculture, providing decent jobs. And it is a major challenge, in particular in Africa, but not only in Africa. So the third message of this policy brief is that the notion of free land is a fallacy. So there are still some expectations that we can bank some carbon credit obtained by sequestration on land, as we could bank some money in our banks. And another expectation in the framework of the biodiversity negotiations and the next objectives that will be decided hopefully this year during the COP15. That we could find some new places on the world to respond to the needs of the population for food, substitution to fossil energy, and composition of greenhouse gas emissions through massive tree planting. And obviously, it is no more possible to think in such terms because technically, so there is no additional land to do so. There is a real competition for land use between these different needs. And it is perhaps not necessary to say that the idea of the existence of free land for new protected areas is a colonial vision that ignores state sovereignty, rights of indigenous people, like and IPCC, IPBES, IUCN, FAO, and have emphasized recently the importance of indigenous people occupying 28% of lands and managing 80% of terrestrial biodiversity. So, in this context, as previously in the first policy brief, we mentioned the importance of now and substantially the necessity to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in all land sectors. Here, all these elements are calling for the intensifying of the restoration intensifying the restoration of degraded land while learning from local and indigenous people. And this is our third message. The last one is also very important because in the context of the two options of land sharing and land sparing, what we can stress is that the land sparing option is very well assessed and evaluated in the literature. And it is not very difficult to do so because what is evaluated is the space consumed, the biomass produced, and the greenhouse gas emitted. But what is not, and barely not took into account, is biodiversity, land degradation, and effects of synthetic inputs. And in addition, we can observe that global modeling does not take into account the diversity of farming systems, and in particular, agroecology, which cannot be reduced to a set of specification, because agroecology is a project that implies major socioeconomic changes, including a different vision of the relationship between agriculture and biodiversity. It brings into play all the synergies between humans and other living beings within ecosystems, and it considers social, institutional, political, and technical interactions over the long or even very long term. So this call for more comprehensive and inclusive design and assessments of food system and land use transitions. And here, in this context, and for these needs, scientists can help. So that is the conclusion of the second policy brief. I have talked too much, I think. And it's my very great pleasure now to give the floor to Marie Hrabanski from CIRAD, which is going to present the third policy brief. Marie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Claire. So I am Marie Hrabanski. I am senior researcher in political science from CIRAD. And this presentation was built with IRD and INRAE. So the title is Tackle Climate Change Recommendations for Agricultural Adaptation Policy of Tomorrow's. Yes, right, it's better. And there is also a policy brief which is available. So to begin, we have to remember that adaptation to climate change in agricultural systems is a major challenge for policymakers at the international, national and local levels. The IPCC stresses the urgency of adapting to climate change. That is why there is a proliferation of plans since 2000s. There is lots of plans, national adaptation plans and programs. And with some of my colleagues in political science, we analyzed these different plans, and we analyzed too the literature, the scientific and grey literature on these plans. And this literature emphasizes cross-sectoral plans, programs and objectives as the main driver for innovation. In the same way, this literature also opposes the decline in regulatory public policy instruments, considered rather ineffective, to the potentially increasing benefit of flexible and voluntary governance instruments. However, according to us and according to our scientific research, such conclusions, one, does not necessarily apply to the agricultural sector, and two, these conclusions can also even steer policy making in the wrong direction. These two ideas are based on three scientific projects, which are Typoclim, Artimix, and Tackling Climate Change. In these three scientific projects, we analyzed 173 policy instruments in 11 countries all over the world. You can see in the map, we analyzed the policy instruments in South Africa, Senegal, Spain, France, Colombia, Brazil, California, and in other three French Caribbean islands. And so in these 11 countries, case studies, we analyze the enabling conditions for the successful implementation of public policy mechanisms promoting climate transition in the global north and south. So we analyzed the types of policy instruments. We analyzed also the governance of these policy instruments. And so based on these scientific results, we promoted 4 key messages. The first key messages is policy instrument, some promising tools to assess climate policies. In fact, facing many institutional challenges, including multi-level governance and policy integrations issues, climate plans can encounter considerable barriers to future policy implementation. That is to say that primary research in developed countries has shown that the effective implementation of local adaptation plans may be beyond the capacity of many local governments. So plans to tackle climate change do not necessarily lead to effective implementation. The effective implementation of local adaptations plans may be beyond the capacity of many local governments. So it is very important to pay attention to the smallest units of public action, especially in the context of the global stocktake in 2023. The policy instruments is the more relevant unit to assess public action. The key message too is sectoral policies for agricultural climate adaptation support innovative processes. It is an idea which is very important because in the adaptive governance at the international level, the cross-sectoral approach in public policies is widely promoted. But based on our scientific research, we observe that sectoral implementation of policy instruments could also allow innovative processes. More exactly, some 3/4 of the existing policy instruments implemented in the studied countries are some sectoral instruments in the north as well in the south. So, instrumental innovation in the studies relies heavily on this sectorization. Political, administrative, financial, and organizational capacities of the agricultural sector is really a driver for innovative processes. For example, we could cite the Climate Smart Agriculture Platform in Senegal, which relies on the agricultural sector at the local level to promote climate change thanks to agricultural chambers or, for example, agricultural advisors. The key message 3 is promoting efficient instruments which combine regulatory and incentive approaches. At the international level, the main literature promotes the use of incentives and flexible instruments for adaptation policies, and consequently rejects instruments of the command and control types, which is some stick policy instruments. However, command and control instruments should not be excluded from policy design. Indeed, policy instruments are widely hybridized by combining regulatory logic with incentives and communicative instruments. The example of agri-environmental climate measure in European Union is a good example because this policy instrument constitute a funding mechanism aimed at providing financial support to farmers. The objective is to motivate them to adopt more environmentally friendly practices in favor of climate change mitigation or adaptation. Consequently, agri-environmental climate measures are considered as incentive instruments. However, many strict regulations, compliance with technical practices, compliance with regulations concerning fauna and flora, for example, enter through the window of technical conditionalities linked to the implementation of incentive subsidies. So in this way, agri-environmental climate measures are some hybrid instruments which combine some flexible modes of regulation and regulatory dimensions. We could also cite the water quotas in South Africa. Key message 4 focus on the implementation of existing policy instruments. Priority cannot be the development of new policy frameworks or instruments. Indeed, based on our 3 scientific projects, we can conclude that priority must concentrate on improving the implementation of existing policy instruments. For example, in Colombia, climate policy processes focus on the creation of policy frameworks and guidelines and institutional innovations, such as regional climate platforms, but policy implementations is lagging. So to conclude, I prefer rather to conclude, I would like to ask you some questions. First question. Sorry. What do you think, as a stakeholders or observers or negotiators? What do you think about strengthening the means of concrete implementation of the sectoral instruments to tackle climate change, and not also some cross-sectoral instruments to tackle climate change in agricultural sector? And second question: is it possible, relevant, to develop some common control policy instruments in your country? For example, some water restrictions, some water quotas, and reinforce conditionalities for agricultural adaptations. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Marie. So it's now time for the questions and discussions. So I don't know how it works. We have micros that we can circulate. Okay. So questions in the room here, Camille Zimmer-Bonn, or remotely. You have the chat if you want to use it. No, it's very late already. You are all tired. So just remind that our Indian colleagues are with us. It's already late in India. So please, if you have questions for them, they would be very happy to answer. Okay, I think that Marie has a question for Nisha and Dr. Kirit Shelat. Do you hear us, Nisha?
Do you hear me, Nisha?
I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm here.
So just two short questions. First, you speak about insurance programs and lots of programs and projects. I would like to know if these projects are developed over long or short periods of time, and is it a problem, according to you, for farmers? And my second question deals with climate-smart agriculture versus agroecology, because you explained that NCCSD is closely with GACSA, and in Europe there is a big difference between a climate-smart approach and agroecology approach. I would like to know if it's the same thing in India. Is there some controversies about climate-smart agriculture and agroecology? What is the place for agroecology in India? Thank you.
So Nisha.
First, I would like to respond, and I request Dr. Shelat, if I missed something, please add some. The first question is, we just mentioned about the different implementation schemes, like examples in the country and even in the state. When we initiated any initiatives, we with the pilot. So if in the pilot, if we
Nisha?
insurance.
We lost you for a minute. Could you repeat?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, could you go ahead or repeat the last sentence, please? Because I don't know why, but we lost you for a minute.
Yeah. Actually, for the weather insurance, for the insurance. So in the country, we have different technical institutions. First, they did a pilot with the farmers. If it is a success, then we upscale it. So of course, we have in each and every initiatives, peoples and even scientists, and we as institutions, we have challenges. But as I mentioned earlier, each and every institutions have expertise in the different field. NCCSD have one expertise, the other organization have a second expertise. So when we think about the adaptations and when we talk about the mitigations, each and every expertise come together, and that's why it's a participatory approach. So even in the state Gujarat, any government schemes, it's implemented. Before that, it tested at the field level with the civil society organization, and even at the ground level, at the village level, people, and then it's launched on the big way. The second thing, for the climate smart farmers and ecology. In that, I would like to share that in the India, in particular, some community, we have a traditional system, and that traditional system and traditional things, it's directly linked with the ecology. So we as a country and we as a Gujarat state, NCC as an organization, we always look after what is the traditional system, how the traditional system linked with the technology, how the technology fit with the traditional system. So how ecology and climate smart agriculture, it's stand alone, and how the farmers are well equipped at the grassroots level. Shelat sir,
Yeah.
I think.
I think Nissa has covered what you have asked for, but let me clarify 2 or 3 things.
Yeah.
Number one,
Yeah,
can you
please.
hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Kirit Shelat? Yeah?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you properly.
Okay, so our focus is farmer. Focus is to make him self-reliant, make him smart to manage adverse impact of weather change. That is our focus. The instruments are, you use a variety of instrument, you use agroecology, you use climate smart practices, you use traditional practices. So these are different instruments which use, so there is no conflict in our country in any of these things. These ideologies have been created by experts. One expert talks about agroecology, another expert talks about climate smart. Both are same, because it is not climate smart practice or agroecology which is important. It is food productivity, food production, and livelihood of farmer which is important. Because global warming is international phenomena, but it is impact is on farmer, farmland, and villages. And both farmland are becoming increasingly difficult for making good productivity. Therefore, our belief is that all agriculture has to be climate smart. It has to be what you call agroecology. What we call here is natural farming. Yeah, there are different words, but it has the same connotation. Natural farming means you use a green manure. You use pesticides which are also non-chemical based. So we have a mix of these systems. Second, as regarding policies, we have a long-term program like water harvesting. We have a long-term program related to solar roof. We have a long-term program related to micro-irrigation. We have a long-term program of promoting species which prevent salinity. We have a program for constructing dikes so that salinity ingress can be prevented. And we have a short-term program depending on the local needs, and for which local and below level to choose the schemes which are suitable under district planning board. While states implement program at a state level and national government takes care of certain major programs which are common to all. Is that satisfy your question, ma'am?
Yes, thank you very much.
So thank you very much for your answers, Nisha and Dr. Kirit Shelat. Other questions, comments from the audience? Anything on the chat? Nothing? Do you see something on the chat? Nothing. Okay.
If nobody has questions, I want to add 1 or 2 points.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, my first, since through this forum, my request is to UNFCCC, Green Fund, CCTN, World Bank, and major funding organizations to prioritize agriculture. Because in your presentation, you also mentioned about carbon sequestration. Agriculture and vegetation is only nature's tool by which carbon can be absorbed from nature. And this is through photosynthesis process. Now, what has happened is due to increasing urbanization and industrialization and transportation and infrastructure, land under vegetation is getting reduced. When land under agriculture and vegetation is getting reduced, so much less carbon dioxide is absorbed. So if we want to balance the global warming challenge, we have to increase area under vegetation and agriculture. Now, world has a huge resources of wasteland, and technology is available to put vegetation which can provide food, which can provide fodder, and can support a large livestock, dairy-based economy, food economy, and livelihood. Similarly, in the seashore areas, we can grow seaweeds, which is also a natural fertilizer and is absorbing carbon dioxide. So we have to take these measures in big way. But the countries which have problem are poor countries, and they do not have capacity to provide consultants who can prepare project reports which are required by Green Fund, by CCTN. All this is not available. So they have to take so much of measures to identify countries where this problem is existing, where increasingly area are becoming drier and drier due to droughts, due to global warming, due to seawater rising, and farmers are leaving agriculture and migrating either to urban areas or to other countries. So this twin challenge of meeting food security challenge, food productivity challenge, livelihood challenge needs that as a world international group or cooperative group, we prioritize agriculture, we prioritize farmers and support them. Secondly, we need not support any initiative which is required to be implemented by industry. While calculating CO2 emissions, industry does double. When it replaces agriculture or vegetation and converts land into non-agriculture use, it reduces CO2. Now, nobody is measuring how much CO2 absorption industry is reducing. It is not there. Only emissions by them is there. Now, these should be introduced and they should be made accountable to under loss and damage scheme to make it good. And they should be made accountable to make 40% of open areas which they are required to keep as per the town planning rules to convert into green areas. Now, these are some of the strong measures I would request that we should be able to make and suggest. Already your presentation has brought out some of these things very well, and congratulations for your both excellent presentations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kirit Shelat. Would someone want to react? Marie, do you have some reaction? Nobody? If so, I think that we have to conclude our side event. So it was a pleasure for us to be here. If you are interested to read our publications, some copies are here on the table and they are also available online. So, and we would be very happy to continue the conversation by email if you are interested to discuss with us. And thank you very much for your presence. And your presence also remotely. I don't know how much people were present. I cannot see it on my screen, but Thank you very much for your attention and hope to see you soon in another occasion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.